All right, we are back. Hold the angle. We went on a little bit of a post-major hiatus, but now that CS is starting back in force, I have Tony, I have Vincent, and we're here to talk about some good old Counter-Strike. First off, Vincent, Tony, how are we doing?
I'm chilling. I'm having a good time. I'm excited to get back into talking Counter-Strike. We've had a little bit of off time, but I'm ready to roll.
I get a little itchy when I go to LANs and I don't get to play for a while. This is my longest break from playing Counter-Strike in a while, and it's like a little over 7 days. So I mean, that doesn't sound like a long time, but it's a long time in my mind.
It's a long time when there was a massive update in the middle of it. I mean, Counter-Strike has changed quite drastically since you last played it. So we gotta sit down and we're gonna talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about the update at some point, I'm sure. But really today, we're gonna focus on something a little bit different. We're gonna talk about North American Counter-Strike. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. It exists. It might be on its lifeline, but we're trying to bring it back. And today, we're gonna focus on a recent NA tournament. Fragadelphia 19 was what Tony and Vincent were out there doing. Tony, you were there casting it. Vincent, you were there for the vibes. And I want to sit down and talk to you guys about Frag 19 today, so we can highlight, you know, a little bit of hopium left in North American Counter-Strike.
Well, I kind of guilt-tripped Vincent into going to the event in the first place, so...
Fair enough. Listen, Vincent was there with the vibes, and that's really what matters. So, if you guys are going to enjoy this kind of content, you can show me by leaving a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel already. Helps out immensely in YouTube algorithm, as well as with my goal of reaching 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Also, take a second. Vincent and Tony, their top links in the description. Go support them and what they're doing. I know we've said this nearly every episode, but me and Tony are nearly done working on a massive project for his channel. Hopefully we can get that out soon. I think you guys will really enjoy the finished product. Vincent, you can catch him casting all sorts of shenanigans in the Counter-Strike world as well. Make sure you follow those guys. And lastly, before we get started, I would like to thank today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Skins Monkey, a CS2 trading website. You put in the skins that you want to trade, you select what you want, you use my code LionHeartZ for up to $5 off, or click the top link in the description, and boom, new drip.
Nice.
You can also use my code for a 35% deposit bonus if you want to buy with real money. And they have a free section with cool giveaways. So check the top link in the description, use my code to buy 15 Dragon Lores to let them know I sent you their way, and thank you to Skins Monkey for sponsoring this video. Alright, so first place we're going to start a little bit big picture, then iris down on some topics. I want to talk a little bit about Tony. You got to work the event, you were casting it. What was it like getting to sit there with the Frag guys and make this tournament happen?
Well, I mean, I've been working with them kind of like on and off for the better part of the last 4 years or so now. Even when I was playing and coaching, they would be pretty open to having me around when it wasn't really a conflict of interest, like after either elimination or between matches or, you know, whatever the case may be. But it was good this time around being in like a full focus capacity casting again for, I think, honestly, what might even be close to since the first time I had worked with them ever, when they were still receiving funding elsewhere. But it was good. I had all A stream games. I didn't have any B stream matches, so the broadcast got to see me 100% of the time that I was casting, which was pretty cool. And all in all, I think we put on a pretty good show, minus maybe a few bumps in the road here and there.
And then I guess going right after that, Vincent, you were there, you were attending, you were in the venue. What was it like kind of down on the floor, kind of the viewer and spectator experience?
It's pretty good. I mean, if you don't know, it was at the St. Clair Esports facility in Windsor, and they have an awesome program over there, and they've got an awesome setup too, like a pretty cool stage, with like pretty incredible tech as well. So from like an in-venue perspective, it was quite cool. Like just as a spectator, some of the Frag events, like as a spectator, aren't necessarily as cool if you're there in person than if you were like watching on stream. But this was not the case for this one, and definitely a pretty awesome place to be.
Right. I actually say that just kind of viewing from some of the stream clips and stuff, I thought you guys actually put on a really good production, Tony. Overall, I really liked what you guys did with the HUD stuff. If you guys don't know, if you didn't catch any of the clips, when you watch Frag 19, they had their own proprietary HUD where the smokes were team colored. So CT smokes were blue, T smokes were red. And while that's like a little jarring at first, I like that kind of chance at like visual clarity to know definitively what smokes are what. But that was a really interesting choice to do that.
Yeah, definitely pretty cool. You actually like the HUD.
Yeah.
Okay, some people said they didn't. Some people said that they did, and I feel like personally it was pretty good. I liked it. Some people were like, I wish it was on the side, and I don't know. I feel like it's actually a little less distracting when it's on the bottom for me when I get to see everything on the front side of my screen. The only thing I would have said that for next time I hope that they do or change is that the the ammo, it's not, you can't see how much ammo is in a player's gun, so that was really all I had.
I'm actually personally not very picky about HUDs. Like, as long as like the key information's there, I'm not really like someone's like, oh, this HUD's ugly, it really detracts from the viewing experience. It just doesn't seem to really bother me too much. So like, as long as it like looks unique, it stands out, and like the colors are pretty, I'm pretty satisfied. Like, I'm pretty easy to please in that regard. Vincent, you got any thoughts on the presentation?
Smile.
I mean, not particularly.
Guy who was there staring at the screen.
It was like a pretty standard HUD. I didn't have any like big issues with it or like anything. I actually don't love the way that the smokes looked. I think that they're different, but I felt that they were a little too bright, maybe. Like they felt a little gaudy to me, but that's just a preference. I think overall it looked really good. And like you're saying, I don't think it's like a big deal necessarily. It's just kind of my preference.
Cool. Well, then I guess kind of going right past that then, were there any like players or teams you guys got to meet down there that you were excited to get a chance to talk to?
I mean, I don't know how Vincent's previous Fragadelphias have been, or how much he actually goes around and tries to get around. But I've spoken to like almost everybody at this point. It feels like at previous events, like I've gotten to the point where I know a majority of the people. But this time around, I got to meet people that I had kind of come into interactions with only just recently online, like namely like the Chicken Coop guys. They're a pretty good group of people, particularly Wreckmeister. He's a really good guy. Alex, if you we're probably going to talk about him a little bit later. So. You know, I guess it's like working up a little bit of not the courage, I guess, but I guess in the same sense, courage to speak to the higher ups in North American like Counter-Strike play, like the people who I would want to interact with, like definitely like the NRG guys and like the M80 guys, who Lake is easily one of the best people in the North American scene at that level, maybe even the best that I know, personally at the very least. So it was pretty cool. And I hope that next time around, when I do work these, I have a little bit more time and a little bit more energy to try and do a little bit more more mingling.
All right, fair enough.
It's usually a good time being able to like talk to people and just kind of like, you know, get to know them as people as opposed to just like players. And I mean, I obviously love talking shop as well, and I think that's usually a lot of fun. I don't think I get around nearly as much as Tony does, but I tend to like talk to as many people as I can. I'm a little shy when it comes to that, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's definitely one of the benefits of these smaller lands, right? Like, we all love the big events. Everyone loves the spectacle of bigger events. But when you go to these smaller tier lands, it's more intimate, right? You get a chance to actually meet people. You have times to have conversations. Like, you know, if you run into Kerrigan and IEM Cologne, like running between matches, he's just going to sign your mouse pad and move on. You're not going to get a chance to, unless you run into him in a bar later, you're not going to get a chance to say more than like 2 words to the guy. So like, you get this chance at these smaller lands to really actually like, rub elbows with these players and make connections. So I can imagine, like, even just as someone who's never gotten a chance to go myself, that's a pretty cool experience to get to sit down with some of these guys and, you know, afterwards have a beer with, or, you know, get a chance to really talk to them between maps.
Yeah, I love that. I love that kind of thing. Especially, well, it gets to a point where I want to talk to a specific group of players and people at these events, and then I kind of find myself pulling myself a little, or stretching myself a little too thin. So I gotta get a little bit better at that, and like prioritizing people and players that I actually want to hang out with, like the Tsunami guys, for example, particularly like Poseidon. Like, he's somebody who I'm also in Vincent as well, or pretty like, you know, buddy with.
And then I guess going right past that, this is one of the first lands that got to be played with the new patch. So Overpass was in, Anubis was out, the CT Molly changes, the MP9 nerf, the CT economy. I guess kind of going right past that, we got to see Overpass played here. What did you guys see about getting to see Overpass for the first time? What were kind of the vibes of that map being back in?
I've always loved Overpass. I was actually really frustrated when that was the map to go previously, like at the time that it got taken out. So I'm super happy to see it back. I think that realistically, like nothing has kind of changed with regard to like how the map plays inherently. The things that have changed around it is what's kind of interesting and what's going to change how it's played. The changes to like the CT Molly, even though it did get like changed again, it's still not ideal. I think that changes things pretty significantly, or it can, and like those kinds of things. But overall, I'm really happy to see it back. I think that it was a important map in the pool, mostly because it's so different from others and provides like a very different tactical approach than any other map.
I'm still very bummed Anubis is the one that had to leave, but I do definitely agree with the majority of that. Overpass and Anubis are really similar in how they're played and like the mid round that they provide for teams. So I mean, I guess I do understand it to a certain extent, but at the same point, I would much rather have them both coexisting in the same world. But given that Overpass is back, I think the gameplay that I saw was pretty good. Makes for some decent little, upset potential, perhaps for not even necessarily upset potential, but actual like good Counter-Strike potential for teams that might not have been playing it so much when CS2 released. So that's going to be a pretty interesting thing to see what teams are taking it on as a pick. And already today, I think that we saw that it was this heroic team that picked it into NIP and ended up losing. So you can see what that might bring you, even if you do think that you're more comfortable on it. This guy Snappy's been calling on it forever, so it's a little bit of give and a little bit of take, and how big you can really try and be on it.
Do you guys feel like you noticed the CT econ changes at all? Do you feel like overall things were a little more even?
No, yeah, definitely.
It just feels like it just feels like you're able to kind of have just that little bit of extra cash to work with. It's actually really creative, I think, the way that Valve approach balancing, and this is another one of those things that I think is actually really cool, because it might end up being perfect, and in a way that I don't think if you asked anyone they would have proposed.
Yeah, I know personally, my thought was loss bonus the whole way. I didn't think about this at all.
I'm already seeing like 4 M4 second round buys like comfortable, and I'm pretty cool with that.
Yeah, it just feels like it's made things more equal, especially in that early game economy transfer. So I mean, it was good to see that get to play out here. I mean, obviously the big test is going to be Cologne going into it, but Frag getting a chance to play it so soon after the patch, I think, was really helpful. Moving kind of downstream of that, I guess we can get into some of the results. Obviously, Kolesie, I believe is how it's said, were the team Kolesie were the team that walked away with the victory. Polish team, they walk away with the first place prize. They took down M80 in a best of 5. What do you guys think about Kolesie walking away with this? Were they definitely the best team here? Do you feel like M80 kind of threw in the finals?
I think having watched Kolesie in their semifinals match, having rather casted them in their semifinals match, I was really, really impressed with how they were playing. I was absolutely blown away with how little they left undone as far as fundamental Counter-Strike was concerned, even in positions where they are in like 2 or 3 man advantages, flushing out positions with Molotovs, numbers, or flashbangs, or just waiting for their timing as their teammate takes contact on the other ends of the map. They did a really, really good job of impressing me and making me believe that they could win the final before they even got there. So I personally think they just outright came in and looked like the better team across the series that they played, including the grand final, which is unfortunate to say, but it really helps that somebody like Flay is having an MVP level performance pretty much through and through.
Yeah, I think that was actually the big surprise, is that I really didn't know a lot about Flay. I had seen or Kissarak, who I think is the other like general standout player for me, not specific to the final, but I didn't know that much about those guys. I had seen the rest of this team, and I had expectations for them to like probably be in the mix in the semis, potential to make a final. But I thought that if they made a final, I wasn't necessarily all that convinced that they would win the final. But like Flay had an incredible final, like absolutely stunning. And Cloku, the other guy that I feel like I haven't seen play with the form that he was in this event previously. I've seen him play on a couple of other teams. Like I think he was actually on Apogee at one point, and I might have seen him there. And I think he was on like an Illuminar squad that I had seen. So, but a really young player that like played really well in the finals. I think that was super exciting. I was impressed.
And then kind of skipping right over to M80. This is obviously the first land with Hex T in the lineup. He ends up being one of their better players for the whole event. Him and Lake seem to look really good together. How are you guys feeling about M80 now we got a chance to see these moves kind of realized in the server?
I guess we are jumping a little bit ahead in where me and Vincent were, but we were talking last night, and I kind of asked him like a set of in line of questions about how they performed from his point of view, and I guess it went something along the lines of, I asked, and I guess I can pose that question to you if you watched any Lionheart. I'm not sure if you did, but do we think that M80 lost because of individuals was my first question, and then I kind of asked who that individual or set of individuals were. So Vincent, if you want to kind of
sure,
break
Vincent, go
that
ahead.
down.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, I think yes, to a certain extent. Definitely in the final, you saw some significant missing pieces for them, and no small part of that is Sin, tragically, and that feels weird because like he's the in-game leader. You know, you don't necessarily expect him to frag out, but like in general, like I think that there was some maps in particular where he was just so missing, it was like really obvious. And then the same is true to a much lesser extent, in my opinion, for Lake for the final. But I think he had some really big moments as well where unfortunately Sin, for me, really was a letdown on some maps.
I think just kind of looking
Yeah,
at
and
it
then my
on a
next
surface level.
question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
I think kind of just looking on a surface level, it seems like Lake once again kind of had a very up and down performance in the grand finals. It feels like he's either very good in a map or very missing. Just kind of looking through it, kind of on the surface. Like Train, he goes 10 and 19. Dust 2 goes 4 and 15. Ancient, he's much better going 16 and 15, and he kind of maintains the performance through Overpass. But then on the final map on Overpass, or on Mirage, sorry, he goes 9 and 16 on the way out. He ends up being their worst performer, at least by raw KD, second worst in terms of rating. And definitely, like, he's such a very kind of high flying aggressive player. It's gonna be kind of a like feast or famine aspect to his game no matter what. But you would expect Lake to be kind of the guy. You expect him to be kind of leading the team, best player in the server most of the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, I said before, I'll glaze him up and down the road, but like he's one of my favorite players in the scene right now, and I think that frankly, for me, he is the guy who they needed and didn't really show up when they needed him most. I mean, he showed up in the maps that they won, at least showed up in the sense that he played just as they needed him to in order to take the win over the line. Dust 2, nothing that he could have done would have changed that. Not at all. And it comes down to Ancient, and he does pretty much everything he can, putting damage down range, even when he wasn't getting kills. And then come to Mirage, that was where we needed Lake. That was where a kill or two indifference, or maybe even just like a moment overturned, and where he makes a slightly better decision, opens up a world of opportunity for a Slax or a Sin, to where Swisher was aggressively fine. Hex was playing pretty hard, I think, holding his own very, very well, especially on T side when they needed him to be able to find either some entries or some between kills, to where Lake, again, that one of those aggressive pieces, definitely in moments where he needs to shine, he just simply didn't. And it's unfortunate to say. And I wish I didn't have to say it. I wish I got to witness him win his first LAN. I wish I got to cast that. I wish I got to be a part of that. And it's kind of a bummer that I see him walk off the stage, obviously a little bit deflated and defeated. And I hope to see him again at some point soon, but this just wasn't on M80's time, unfortunately. And this is my follow-up question that I had given to Vincent, was the calling, the difference in the calling between Innocent and Sin, and how he felt that stacked up.
Yeah, and I think the answer to that question is that it didn't really stack up. And I don't know that that's a super fair comparison when you look at how experienced Innocent is, and comparatively inexperienced Sin still is, even though he's been with this team for a while now. Yeah, I don't think that Sin had a good performance both on the server and like from the calling perspective either. There was sometimes where I was really just kind of like scratching my head a little bit about what the goal or like the thought process behind some plays are. And it's one thing to not necessarily agree with something that's being called, but like if I'm sort of lost on like what the perspective idea was, that's where I think that there's probably an issue. And for me, that's what I kind of saw from Sin, more often than I would like to see in this one. And that's why I think I put more on Sin than Lake, because in those big moments where even on those maps where Lake doesn't statistically have like a great game, there was flashes. We just didn't, like as a whole, M80 were getting stomped on Mirage, on Dust 2. So I find it hard to like put too much blame in Lake's space for those types of maps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't really know if that's true about Mirage, though. I don't think that they were getting stomped. Like 13-6, I think, is a little bit misleading for how many rounds that they were down to like a 1 versus 1, a 2 versus 2. And in addition to that, how many rounds they had buys on, considering they were the ones who started that map on CT side also and went 2 to 10. I think it's a little disingenuous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they had a lot of opportunity.
I think that they were getting stomped in that first half in general, and yeah, there was some rounds that were close, but it felt like it was an attempt at a clutch every time that didn't quite go correctly. And you could definitely argue that a few of those are different, then that's a very different map. But for me, I think that they looked at their worst on that first half of Mirage, where Sin is like 0-7 or something like that to start, and Lake was like 2-6 or 2-7 to begin with. That's where like those individuals in particular, I think, let down the biggest.
Well, it's got to be tough, right? Because you go down 2-1 after losing Dust to an Ancient. They have a pretty good game on Overpass. You win that pretty confidently, 13-9. You had a great opening T-half, honestly. And then Mirage just starts off on your CT side. You guys are just getting pummeled. Like, that's just got to be so hard to kind of dig the momentum out of that when you felt like you equalize the series, you bring it to the final map, and you just can't get anything going on that first half. Like, that MR12 is just so punishing in that regard that it's just you're having to make like a miracle comeback at that point.
Yeah, I mean, true.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying for me to think back to that Mirage. If I'm being honest with you, it was a little scarring because I think that game definitely could have been M80s with the same scoreline flipped. If I'm being completely honest with you.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me. I was really hoping that they would be able to make that work and make that win happen. And I even had a little bit of hope in my back pocket, which was the real delusion that they were going to make the comeback after the 10-2, when really that was never going to happen. But it's unfortunate because I think that these guys like Swisher have been, or I guess I'm going to point the finger directly at Swisher, to be honest with you, played his ass off at this point in this final, to where we haven't really even seen Swisher play like this in general recently, in my opinion. I don't think I've really seen Swisher do the things he was doing, particularly kicking off the series with like hat trick after hat trick in rounds with a pistol or an M4, holding down lines in which you should never be making these things happen, set up to succeed, and left on his own and doing it in anyway. So yeah, I think that's kind of a bummer, because that's not often that you'll have that, and it's also not often that you'll have Lake playing the way that he did. So the fact that they both happen at the same time in the same universe, entirely centralized in Windsor, Ontario, is unfortunate.
Yeah, overall, I would say I'm pretty happy with Hex, like, just being good, like, out the gate. Like, I'm a big Hex believer. I was a big fan of him on NRG, so I'm glad that, like, he was still good in most of these games. So, I mean, M80, they're the highest ranked team here. They made the finals. It was a competitive finals. They probably should be winning Fragadelphia just on, like, level of competition. But, I mean, not walking away with the win here, I'm not going to, like, kind of burn it down already. I kind of want to see how Hex and Lake work together going ahead into like more international lands, especially.
Yeah, I think the like takeaways for me for this is that this is a disappointment. This is wasn't necessarily meant to be a layup for M80 this event, but I do think that they were the favorites to win it, and I think that they could have stand some of those tough moments and individuals that we just got done talking about. That being said,
if they were going to lose, this is where it was going to happen. Like that stage, like that fifth map, in my opinion, was where it was going to happen.
Yeah, and listen, I think it's important to keep in mind that this is their first tournament with Hext. And even though I think that everybody's opinion is pretty much correct that this is like a straight up pound for pound upgrade for M80, I do think that that is an important piece of context that does still need to be mentioned.
I guess moving right past that, I want to talk about NRG next, because they were also kind of a team I was pretty excited to kind of take a look at. Obviously, this is the great land debut for Exotic, and then also the addition of Carson here. And NRG, they go out, they look okay. They lose in the first quarterfinals to BlueJays, which is definitely not ideal. How are we feeling about NRG as we walk away from this one?
I can start off. I think that for me, there's like two sides to this, right? I had huge question marks about like whether or not Exotic would look good on land, whether or not like he would be able to play up to the level that we've seen him online. Because here's the thing, man, like Exotic is a guy that, according to his teammates, like just has some pretty significant anxiety about things, and I was very concerned that like that would affect him in a significant way. Doesn't seem like it did. Exotic looked incredible. He was their best player, and he looked really good doing it. He did he was pulling out the same type of stuff that he was doing online. Unfortunately, on the other side of that for NRG, I think that Carson was always not a great like direct pickup, I feel like, for the roles that they needed. And the idea was that he could fill those roles and be fine with it. Well, he did. He didn't look very good doing it, but I mean, I think that was expected for me. The results are the biggest problem for NRG. Like, I think that they needed to be making a semi here, and they don't.
Right.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely true. They won the last one. Like, they absolutely should be making the semifinals at least, at bar minimum here. against a team who is also relatively new, so they don't have an excuse of being a new team in their own regard or anything like that. I mean, Blue Jays only just came together as the two players that they'd added in Laxey and Freshie into the core of what the Moneyball team was in the last month or two. So, I mean, that's kind of a nothing argument for me if anybody wants to post something like that to where, yeah, there were underperformances coming out from a couple of these guys where they definitely shouldn't. Sure, Junior might have out-opt an Exotic who was still playing fine. Like, he was still doing fine despite Junior playing better, and that's not something that they can say is really a difference maker when Junior's being gifted opportunities by Bro, Carson, and Nitro, and George is dropping a plus 20 game, series rather, and getting down and deep into the nitty gritty of that is that all the calling from Nitro also seemed to be relatively fine until it got to the mid to late round where Bro was making maybe a little bit of an overextension or an overfight, or Carson simply couldn't go toe to toe, which is not something that can happen for an NRG roster that wants to be a top North American team. To where I'm excited tentatively for the core of this team even still, but even so, I think that this is a bit of a bummer in general for the future of this team. I don't know if this is like a placeholder move with Carson and Exotic, a long-term decision in which they're trying to stick with, but it's one they're really going to have to sell me on, because I don't even think Carson was in a position, obviously IGLing in his previous teams, to where I was thinking that he was next up or something like that.
I mean, the bigger issue for me is they got rid of Hex, who was like a great fit for what they needed. And then they brought in Carson, who isn't a great fit, but like the pitch that I felt like I was seeing is like Carson, and from all the interviews that shout out M&M's, did a ton of interviews at Frag 19. I read basically all of them. He deserves a lot of credit for like the journalism that he's been doing with regard to these NA events. We don't get interviews like that from anyone else, so shout out Dust 2 US and M&M's on that. But yeah, like the pitch that I feel like the NRG players were giving to me was that, like, yeah, Carson's an experienced player who like can fit in any, he's a key for any door. He can fit in just any role, whatever we need, he can do. And because he's previously an in-game leader as well, like he has the communication is good. And whilst all those things might be true, and I think they deserve a little bit more time to like prove that, for me, that's a hard sell. And I don't think that I saw the results that makes me change my opinion in this event.
Yeah.
I also liked having him as an in-game leader in our scene, to be honest with you. Like, just having that conversation that you just brought up about who he is as a player, I liked having in other teams that would make it so there would be an easier pathway, you know what I mean? Like, eliminating him as a possibility in a team now to pick up as an in-game leader makes it kind of awkward.
Yeah, I mean, just on the surface, you just have to ask the question, like, how much better NRG would be if they just had Hex T instead of Carson. Like, Exotic looks like he's good, right? So they just had Hex T still. George has always been good. Like, they would actually have a really decent core firepower if you just want to, like, use this event as, like, a basis to go off of. Like, Exotic seems to be at least serviceable, right? So it just feels like it was one step forward, two steps back for NRG. And I don't really know what they're going to be able to do going forward. It just feels like they're still going to be really hampered by a severe lack of firepower, because Bro isn't really all that either.
I was going to say, in all fairness, though, I think maybe we are being a little bit super teamy right now in terms of, like, they can't have 4 players that are firepower worthy. Like in context to what Hex was doing for this team, he wasn't like a firepower piece. That wasn't what he was meant to be or do. He wasn't playing in positions that were really like supposed to be getting multi-frags or have top frag games regularly. So
right, but he had great
impact. Is supposed to be Bro, George, and Exotic. Those are supposed to be your 3. So kind of also in defense, I guess, of Carson, is that the Swiss Army knife that I guess that people are trying to talk him up to be is definitely something that can work, like Vincent's saying, potentially with time. But I guess I need to see it pretty soon, like relatively soon, or else I'll be kind of on it. But yeah, just in defense of him a little bit.
That's fair. I guess kind of moving past that, I know you guys want to talk about Marsborne. Marsborne is the team that I just have like no feel for. It's not a team I ever really get to watch. I just kind of gonna let you guys take the lead on this. What are you guys feeling about Marsborne after this event?
Oof.
I have an angle if you don't, Tony.
I do, and I kind of talked about it on the broadcast as well a little bit with Lucid, so I'll let you rip it here, and then I'll kind of just do my little seance on it.
Okay. Well, so for me, I think that I don't know that Viz is necessarily the like right fit for this team. Like I think that right now I would have preferred to see someone a little bit different. I think Viz is very much like serviceable and fine. That being said, I think the takeaway from Marsborne for this event is that they actually did pretty darn well. Like I think that they beat who they should have beat. They lost who they probably should have lost to. They had a group where they were with Lag and NRG. Also NRG beat Lag both times, and Lag's a team that could find an upset against Marsborne realistically. And then they lost to Fluxo in the quarters. And looked not amazing, but okay. You know, the biggest I think disappointment actually for Marsborne on an individual level was probably Modem. But my takeaway for Marsborne is twofold. Question number one, is Viz the long-term solution? I don't know that I'm convinced yet, and I think maybe shouldn't be. Not that he's bad. I just think that there's other potential moves that I think could be better. And then Grizz really, really proved who he can be. You know, he's been kind of he's been talked about pretty regularly, I feel like, over the last 2 years is the next guy up for a young star talent in the NA scene. And I've been on that same train, and I think that this LAN, he really showed what he can do on LAN, man. That it was very cool to see Grizz's performance over this event.
Okay, Tony?
Yeah. I think Chop actually deserves a really high praise from this event. In addition to Grizz, who is kind of like the guy you expect to be able to talk about. You know, you want to end a tournament and be like, yeah, Grizz did what Grizz does. Grizz is a good player. I think Adam is working his way up into the place in North American Counter-Strike where maybe previous years he might have been able to a little sooner, didn't quite meet the cut to where there were other players adjacent to him who were making that happen. And now he's being given the shot in Marsborne and kind of proving it without Minus in the team. And that's my talking point, is that not necessarily is Viz a bad player or a bad pickup for this team, but losing Minus is a real big firepower hit, and it kind of showed in a lot of games where they should be absolutely beating teams, Chicken Coop namely, they lose. And that can't be happening. They can't be getting 2-0'd by a Chicken Coop, where in firepower alone they should be pound for pound just wiping them out, to where even the calling, I think, from Marsborne was a little bit poor compared to Chicken Coop. I think MDS actually kind of called circles around them at a point in time where they lost on a comeback in an overtime on Overpass, a new map, sure, but don't lead that territory into your veto if that's not where you're willing to play, especially against the team that you should be beating. Don't leave it up to that kind of a chance. And that's where I get a little bit questionable. In speaking to Lucid on the broadcast, like I had said, following their defeat in this tournament, I think that they, in terms of placement, went about as good as it could have gone. I think that they definitely, in terms of results, can be happy about where they ended. The bad looked bad. The good looked pretty good. So that's a little bit of a bridge in where this next upcoming period of time they have to adjust is going to be really important to isolate what issues they have and if this 5 is going to work for them. Because like Vincent says, if you're pointing the finger at Grizz and I guess sometimes Chop and I guess sometimes the IGL in Op Wolfie, it's kind of a lot of question marks for who is going to show up on any given day to beat an NRG, to beat regularly a Lag, to beat, if you ever want to move upwards in the North American scene, a wild card or an M80, because frankly, I don't really see it. Modem and Viz being towards the bottom of their boards individually is a little bit worrying to me, considering that Modem's job is probably to be a little bit more aggressive successfully for them to actually get something done. So in due time, maybe this will work out a little bit better than even it did here, but I also want to just reiterate that this is a net good result for them.
I guess going around to it, you already brought them up and mentioning Marsborne. How are you guys feeling about Lag?
Oh, I love Lag. I love me some Brett.
Yeah, I put this out here because I think that, Lag, they didn't necessarily get the box result that you would think, oh wow, that's really, really good for them, because it wasn't, right? But they were in a tough group. They were in a group with Marsborne and NRG, and they played Marsborne close. Even though they got 2-0'd, one of those times they played them twice. I still think that in general they looked okay. It was 2 close maps in that 2-0, and then in the 2-1, there was a lot of opportunities for Lag to kind of find wins. I think that's been a great spot for Wolf to find a home after getting cut sort of surreptitiously earlier this year from a team where he was statistically one of, if not the best players. And that upgrade in firepower for Lag has really highlighted what Brett can do with some better pieces. So I just wanted to kind of take a moment to say that I'm really high on Lag. I think that Lag looked good. And it's pretty exciting to see kind of how they continue to improve.
Mason
I
was their best
basically wanna say
player
that
by
I-
rating. How'd you guys kind of feel about him by eye test?
I was just gonna say that I think that this lag team's players have looked better in this recent couple of months than in any team that I've ever seen them on before. Maybe sub Wolf, because Wolf has, obviously been a little bit higher and been performing well and had the results of winning lands. But otherwise, like Consti, Mason, Sandman, these three guys are honestly looking like a night and day, from what I had come to know them from recent years. And Mason's gotten a little bit more comfortable in this team. Losing Anubis is going to be a bit of a hit for him because he really likes that map, so it would seem, and so has been said by Brett. But I think individually, Mason's kind of the guy that you have as an X factor. I think you have him kind of in your back pocket, actually, to fall back on when a Sandman and a Wolf aren't playing as your number 1 and number 2 heaviest hitters. And given that Wolf was one of the more disappointing pieces of this team for this event, I think that that's actually a pretty good sign looking forward, considering that Mason, like you said, numbers-wise was doing really hot. I think if they're going to continue to pull themselves up and try and make this 5 work, that's a pretty good springboard to work off of, and they can kind of isolate what works for Mason now a bit better.
The impressive part about Mason is that he went from being like a bottom ECL type of player, like that would be like fine, but probably not necessarily like all that impressive, to pretty consistently putting up like big performances on this team. I think it's a credit to the work that Mason's putting in, and also like how effective Brett can like work some of these pieces. So I'm right there with you. I think that's a good point.
Cool. Then kind of bounce around a little bit. Chicken Coop, they make top 8 here. They take a map off M80. I know, Tony, you really want to talk about Wreckmeister for a second. So, Tony, what's up with Chicken Coop right now?
Yeah, I just love Wreckmeister. He's a good dude, and he focuses a little bit on that content creation side of things while playing hard and really caring about the game and the teams that he's on, and now moving over to a different roster and trying to be one of the firepower assets, to where he didn't really replace somebody who was filling too many of those spots and wasn't really performing up to snuff in order to say that they were, I guess, worth keeping around if Wreckmeister was an option. And fortunately for them, that he became one. And he looks great. I mean, dude, he just shoots so hard. He's one of those guys where he doesn't have very much, I don't know, nerves or anxiety when it comes to playing up against teams adjacent or below him. You know what I mean? Like, he just shoots, and he'll walk into your bomb sites. He'll kill you without worrying about what name he's taken off the board. He'll just move on to the next, and that's something you definitely need, whilst also keeping energy high once those kinds of things happen. And that's kind of like one of those stories to where the quote-unquote like next up players start to evolve and emerge from, especially when doing it on LAN. Looking even at players in years past of like a Hext or a Lake or, a JBA, who isn't really falling into that category in terms of personality, but you get the gist.
Mhm.
I think that that's really cool to see that Wreckmeister might have himself a little bit of a debut to start to maybe get some talks going, some murmurs, seeing as he's dropping like 40 kills and like 12 deaths, I think, in one of the best of 3s that HLDV recorded.
Oh.
The fact that he's the highest rated player on this Chicken Coop team in this event is like a really impressive like stat line for like the guy that, like, especially on paper, is like the least experienced of this team. So I think that in and of itself is good. I think that the result for Chicken Coop is actually really good, but the issue remains for Chicken Coop that, like, I don't think that for this team to be better than they are right now, they can have like Gabe and Seabass both be on this team, is like kind of the tough part for Chicken Coop, even though I think this is a good result for them. I think that they performed and even overperformed at this event a little bit, but I don't know if there's like all that much further for them to go. I'd be excited to see that be the case, but that's where I'm at, is I don't know if there is that much further for this, like, this core without at least one more change.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's we've been pretty positive throughout this episode. We do have a couple of negative topics to bring up. I guess we're going to start here first. Apogee, you made a note about this, Vincent. How are we feeling about Apogee walking out of this?
Man, I really feel like Apogee needed to. I think they needed to be able to beat Kolesie, like, genuinely. This is the, like, this Apogee team was the team that had all the pieces, right? Like, they have the probably most experienced outside of Art, like, LAN player in this whole event in Diha. Like, they are a very strong team. I guess that's not including Nitro, to be fair. But yeah, like, of the European teams here, I thought that they should not easily clear Kolesie, but like they didn't. The fact that they lost directly to them is kind of disappointing. And even though it was really close, and I think that they could have probably won that series, Apogee walk away from this like just feeling like they were a letdown, unfortunately. And I don't know that there's that much to say outside of that, but I do think it's important to kind of like take stock of that fact.
I mean, highest rated team and
I
the
concur.
highest rated player as well in Jacob. So like in terms of just stats, they had the stats to be one of the best teams here, but fall short against Kolesie. That's certainly not a good way for them to end, I think.
Yep, it's definitely not a great way to go out. I mean, they had a lot going for them. They had one of these young up and coming prospect players who people were talking about in Poland and Jacob. They bring in that Diha pickup, like you're saying, where he's expected to be like number 1 or 2 firepower wise in general, as well as be able to bring them down to a level of level headedness. And Demo is somebody I've bigged up for a while, and I was excited to see him. And I never got to cast him, man. I never got to see him in that semifinal space that he would have been in if Kolesie hadn't taken him down. And it's kind of a frown moment for me, but I guess there's more time for BetClick to work out, seeing as Diha was only just added like days ago, I'm pretty sure, or like 2 weeks ago or something like that. So hoping in which that starts to round their roster out a little bit better over time. Didn't really happen here on land, but Kolesie is kind of the reason why maybe you put a question mark at the end of how Apogee performed, Vincent, because maybe it was just either an overperformance or an expected performance to the level of Kolesie. But now Kisarek is just outright gone.
Oh, really? There's already been a roster move?
Yeah, he got picked up by who was it? Sinners.
Oh.
And there's like some like I don't know if it's like a meme or not, but like some people were saying things like he left like in the middle of the night.
Well, I
from,
mean,
like, the team
damn
or
near,
something.
considering it's been 3 days.
But like I don't know if this was a move that was already in the making or in the works because they were an orgless team. I don't really know if it was memes that they were kind of saying about him leaving or not. I can't really tell.
I just have to do some research and then follow that up. I have no answer for that.
Yeah.
That's a weird story.
I don't know if it warrants like a lot of like perspectives on it, but it did seem the way that like Innocent was speaking that like that it might have been a bit of surprise. I'll just put it that way.
Here it is. Here's Innocent's quote, and take this for what you will, because I just don't understand. A solid melee after winning the tournament, but 5 guys stay guys. After returning, a quick roster change, and we're back in the game. The CS world has probably never seen such a change in history, so a reverse Uno of Polish CS has been created, and we will keep the pace. Good luck, Camille.
That made things more confusing. I have more questions.
But what?
Why is this a riddle? Like, why do I need to like? What's the key to this? I'm not trying to answer questions.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
All right. Well, Apogee, sorry, Kolesie have put a curse on him now. That's a hex was put on this man on the way out. That's the only answer. Okay. Weird, but we're just gonna leave that there.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. One more time.
Oh, go ahead.
I have one more. This is what Spiro said. I won't describe the whole situation because you won't believe it. It's a decision I can't understand given the current circumstances, but everyone has the right to choose. What hurts more is the fact that the person you trusted and believed and deceived you face to face when we had agreed on something, a life lesson. I guess it's not a joke.
Okay, so he walked off the stage with the trophy, said, "All right, guys, great game." Pulled out his phone, was like, "I'll take the money." Like, what betrayal just happened in Fragadelphia?
Checked his PayPal.
Money hit, and he's gone.
Apparently, dude, he got his cut of the prize. He just dipped. Fair enough. Get the bag.
Anyway.
Get the bag always.
Get the bag. Kiss her right.
Kiss right.
Speaking of betrayals, Fluxo were not great, and Fluxo are in such a weird spot because they picked up Decenti and Lucauzi over the offseason. And, Decenti and Lucauzi have been some of the top Brazilian South American prospects recently. And now they're on this team. They rock up to Frag, and they just weren't that good. And I feel like art is a curse, is where I want to start with this. I feel like art is a curse.
Walk it all back. I think we need to walk everything back. And I think also the way Vincent phrased this topic in our group chat may be a little much.
I'm anti-art in all contexts. Okay?
So let me. I think it's important. Let me put the way I phrase this is Fluxo are not those guys, is what I said.
I love Decenti and Lucauzi.
Well, listen, Decenti and Lucauzi actually looked fantastic.
Yeah.
That's like not the problem, and they continue. I mean, but that was like the minimum, honestly. Like these guys are really experienced, and these guys are really good, and I don't. And Lucauzi was good last time when he was on Fluxo without art, to be fair. But like, I do think that art is sort of like the problem. Kai dropped off a cliff ever since adding these guys, and I do think that there's like possibility. It's like a lot of changes that things can adjust. I think actually initially when art first moved to Fluxo, things looked really bad, and then they actually started looking better and better. Like, as a whole as time went on. So I think there is time, but man, I've just like Art calls them out of good rounds. Like he calls them out of 5v3s, like lose a 5v3. Like it's really quite bad. And the fact that like Kai also goes very missing quite often on this team now with DCT and LBKcs going in. Obviously, you know, Kai isn't getting as many resources because of that. I think that's understandable. But like also I'm fine with Zevi, but he's certainly not like blowing anyone's mind on the op. Like he's good to like solid, but not great.
Serviceable would be
I think that's my biggest issue. I think that Zevi really, really underperformed here. And I think Kai was kind of a victim of it. And I'll stand by a lot of these kinds of role cell takes pretty regularly, is that it really makes your life difficult as a Kai when the players in front and behind of you are really not doing a whole hell of a lot to make your job any easier. And that's kind of the pitfall that Kai is going to fall into a lot of the time. And I think that's kind of sad because nowadays he's not really given liberties to do a whole hell of a lot that he wants. So when, like, say, I don't know, LBKcs is playing an aggressive lurk scenario, and then Art is going first and overextending, and Zevi misses his op shot, and then Kai is just standing in between all of them to where nobody's covering his ass, and he has to kill the guy. Like, that kind of sucks, dude.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the onus needs to put on Zevi here, who's getting blown out of the water regularly by oppers like Junior and oppers like Slax, who he should be going toe-to-toe with, if not being better than, given the places that he's been and the lands he's attended and the teams that he's played on. And it's kind of unfortunate for Zevi, even when he's not being outperformed by other oppers and still looking like kind of missing. Like, namely in that third place decider where they blew BlueJays out of the water after having been taken pretty deep by them in their decider match in the group stage. He's like their bottom performer in 2 maps, getting like 9 kills on average per map. When Junior's like, I think, getting like 7 or 8 on average per map in that same series. So I don't really know, but I mean, when DCT is doing what he's doing and looking as good as he is, and LBKcs seems comfortable reintegrating himself into the system that's already a little chaotic by nature of Art being the caller, I think this is a pretty good place to be for Fluxo. This is the best roster Fluxo have ever had, in my opinion, and not even in a million years when I think about kicking Kai, unless there's a major pickup available on the scene. I think Zevi is the kind who I'm kind of like surveilling my options for Brazilian oppers down the line if he continues to underperform against rosters he shouldn't.
Listen, man, I agree with everything you said about Kai, and I think that Zevi is not quite there. He does pretty darn well against other Brazilian competition, and outside of that, and even against other Brazilian competition, sometimes he does look not good, not great, but serviceable. The problem is that they tried to get rid of him and bring History in, and History looked worse. So like, I just don't know that there's like a clear like way out.
Where's
other than get Henny. Other than
listen,
get
you're
Henny.
joking, but like Henny, you know,
I'm not.
sometimes
I'm
he works.
serious.
He works.
It's the old adage, dude. I mean, I don't know.
So
I mean, he's out there. He's benched.
You know what? You know exactly what to expect from Henny. It's not
He's
gonna
picking
like
up the Infinity Gauntlets of Brazilian teams, dude.
like, here's the difference between like where I'm at and where you're at, though, Tony. Is that like, yeah, upgrade Zevi, fuck, get Henny, but like, Art needs to be studied, man.
Oh,
I was defending when he came into this Fluxo project, and he really made Kai look a lot better, and I knew that was going to be happening. I just think that, unfortunately, Art, he cannot be forgiven for some of the times that he calls them into losses. He like has the pieces to open the round really effectively, and then gets an advantage and actually tosses it. It cannot continue to happen. It's illegal. Someone needs to stop him.
every time Art solo buys a rifle on a save round, it's just like one more like nail into my soul.
Or takes the op out of Zevi's hands, who's like 16-6 on the CT side, and solo buys an op on the T side. Anyway, I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. That's the problem.
It's just Fluxo would be
So-called
great
free
if they
thinkers when they
didn't
can't
have
buy
Art.
an op.
Yeah, I think the
man.
takeaway for Fluxo is that, like, listen, they made it to the semis, and I think that was what they should have been doing, and they lost to M80, and that's fair. But
And
still,
the team that they beat is BlueJays, and they got Laxi. How'd you feel about that one? You watched that game, didn't you?
I did. I actually like Laxi a lot. I think Laxi is a really an interesting aggressive piece. and can be very solid. Unfortunately, like I think that this move would have gone hard like a year ago, to be honest with you. I think that Laxi is like somewhat had a bit of a drop, not even a bit, a significant drop in performance over the last like 6 months. Yeah, but I think that's got more to do with Akimbo being like unable to field a real roster for the last like 4 months than anything. So I actually really like this idea from Blue Jays. I think that the fact that Cryptic is like leading this team gives me a lot of faith in it, and I think that this is definitely a team that will compete. I think they need a little bit more time, and fourth place for them is a great showing for this event.
Yeah, I mean, I keep hearing nothing but positive things about Junior. So, I mean, he seems to just consistently do well in this type of environment. So, you've got like a good prospect player to build around, if nothing else. So, I mean, it's just kind of seeing how they can continue to grow and evolve and see if they can continue to level up their game. I mean, every time I look at like an NA Revival series or Fragadelphia, I see them just kind of mixing it up with teams like NRG and M80 all the time. So, like, they're not that far behind, it seems.
I mean, the fact they beat NRG needs to like be really applauded. Yeah. Like I think that's you know, there's two sides to that. I think NRG that kind of exposed some of their weaknesses as well, but also like they beat them legit. Like Junior had a great game. Like, you know, we actually saw the Kolesie that like everyone sells to me at the used car lot, and it like it worked. It looked good. So I think the Blue Jays should be happy with this.
Yeah. I
concur.
I think overall my biggest takeaway is that the one thing in the past that kind of turned me off from, frankly, just kind of caring about these lower level lands is that the stakes don't ultimately matter so much. But VRS, for all of its issues, the fact that there is actual tangible benefit to teams attending these events besides the prize money and getting to play makes them more interesting just on the surface. So, like, you walk away from this, and NRG and M80, they kind of need these events to get these points. They need every chance they can get to continue to climb up and very much secure their spots, trying to make it to the next major. So, like, every match at these levels of tournaments, they just matter so much more now. So, like, in terms of like rebuilding North America and starting to get the scene going again, the VRS implications alone make Fragadelphia worth paying attention to.
Agreed. I think that that's absolutely the case, and I think that like, you know, adds more eyes to these types of events, which, you know, you can maybe argue that's not like necessarily the reason we want to add like eyes, but I think more eyes is good no matter what.
Yeah, like
I think that the VRS thing is huge, dude. I mean, you can see teams are kind of getting hurt by the VRS thing. I mean, we were kind of saying it in the pre-show, and it sucks. Our good friends over at Tsunami just lost like 27, not points, 27 rankings in the world for VRS, and that's like nuts. That's like really bad. So you can see how much it you say the stakes aren't that high, but dude, they're pretty fucking high.
Well, the stakes didn't used to be high, was my point.
Yeah. You can lose a lot and gain a lot. Like, there is no just like guarantee of getting points. Like, if you're one of those European rosters or like tier 2 South American or whatever the case may be, teams coming to these and they continue to get more and more prestigious, you better be ready to lose some points too, because you're putting them all out on the table.
Yeah, I mean, overall, just kind of a congrats to Frag for putting on another great event. Congratulations to Tony getting to cast the finals. I think you were great out there. Congratulations to Vincent for looking great in the crowd. You know, Vincent just doing it big. You guys got any kind of final closing thoughts about Fragadelphia as we're walking away?
Well, I mean, being a volunteer there, as well as being somebody who goes and plays and coaches and whatever the case may be, whenever I get the chance at these things, I implore anybody who's a fan of Counter-Strike to go and either, you know, attend in a spectator capacity or try to play. I mean, support in any way that you can, because things like this in Fragadelphia need the support of the locals as well as the people who are, you know, trying to make their scene any better. That's how you do it.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great point. Fragadelphia is always looking for volunteers. So take a look at the calendar whenever Frag 20 is coming up. If it's in your area, they're going to need people to help. So if you're someone who wants to kind of get involved in the scene for the first time, maybe attend your first LAN, somewhere like Fragadelphia is a great place to do it. You can go there, you can meet great people, get an opportunity to watch them counter, get an opportunity to play potentially. If nothing else, these LANs, they're honestly a great vibe. It's a great opportunity to get out there and actually meet people within the community. So if you have some hesitation, you haven't been to a LAN before, it could be a great place to kind of get your first your toe in the water.
Come and shake my hand.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, all of those things
direct eye contact.
All of those things are true. I think the next Frag's in Knoxville. So yeah, I mean, if you're especially in the area, like, even if you're not, reach out, see what you can do, or get involved some way. It's definitely a worthwhile thing. No matter what like area you're looking to get into, whether that's like on screen stuff or behind the scenes or admin or anything else, or if you're just looking to play an event, like Knoxville is one of the like smaller events. If you don't know, like the numbered frags, this was frag 19, are like the biggest events with the bigger teams and bigger prize pool. And Knoxville is one of those that are, a little bit smaller. Definitely a great time. Like if you're out there and you've always wanted to play a LAN and you're in the area, come out and do it.
Perfect.
Also, Frag Rowan in New Jersey's, I think, on August 9th. I live in New Jersey. Come say hello.
Perfect. Awesome. I guess kind of one final note for us here, guys. Obviously, Hold the Angle as a podcast. We're not going to be super consistent about this. Like, it's not going to be like an every week or every 2 weeks thing. But I think for right now, kind of what I'm shooting for in terms of cadence is we're going to at least try and do one after like major events. So like after Cologne, we'll try and do one. Fuck the EWC, so not one after that. But after most of the major tournaments, we're going to try and sit down, me, Tony, and Vincent, and we'll talk about what happened, kind of keep you guys up to date on the narratives going on. Obviously, you can also catch me recapping those biggest tournaments all the time on the YouTube channel, talking about news as well. Thank you guys so much for the support lately. Make sure you guys take a second, you go follow Vincent Cash, you follow Tony, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you can find them, LinkedIn, message them on Gmail, Yahoo. You can get a hold of him anywhere. Tony, his YouTube channel, he's going to be putting out a lot more content soon. We're almost done working on this project. Soon TM forever. So if you guys will enjoy that when it comes out, make sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel, help me reach 10K subs by the end of the year. I really appreciate it. Thank you to SkinsMonkey for sponsoring this video. Check the link in the description. You go to trade on their website. It lets them know I sent you their way. Thank you so much to SkinsMonkey. Thank you to my channel members. You guys know who you are. It's the #1 way to support me directly. So consider doing it for $5 a month. And lastly, follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/LionHeartZ2. And other than that, guys, we'll see you soon with another episode of Hold the Angle. Tony, Vincent, thank you for joining me as always.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Perfect.